If you've been in the online business space for a little bit, you've probably noticed a little bit of a vibe shift recently, where the way you market your business is changing a little bit, your products are changing, your entire opportunity vehicle, your business model is changing a little bit. You have to kind of like change and adapt things a little bit quicker than you previously had to. The market is shifting, to say the least. Now, most people don't really understand why that's happening. There are a few people who do, but it seems like a lot of people are like witnessing this happen or experiencing this happen, and they are understanding that this is a thing that is happening. Or otherwise, you're probably having a hard time in business if you're not aware of these things happening. But if you are having a relatively okay time in business, you are aware of these things happening. You see the game changing right before your eyes, and you are pivoting and adapting with the changes. There's a deeper reason as to why these things happen. These things don't just operate in a vacuum. There are consequential actions and pressures that cause these things to actually happen. And that's what I want to talk about in this video, and specifically talk about where I think all of this is heading, because I think there is a deeper fundamental pressure pushing the entire online business space into a very, like, you can actually pinpoint the direction that it is heading towards, if you ask me. And that's kind of what I want to paint in this video, is like, where is it going? Why are things changing? And how can we actually position ourselves for where it's going that we can ride the wave upwards instead of being replaced? So marketing is changing. We've already discussed that. If you've been trying to do direct response marketing, it's very hard. If you've been trying to build a brand just with short form content, it's very hard. It's becoming harder and harder and harder to gain trust online. It's almost impossible. You have to have long form content. You have to make videos like this where I'm just talking to you in front of a screen and you get to see all of the imperfections of me. You get to see that I'm actually human and not an AI, right? You get to see all of these different aspects of who Neil is. And unless you do have some form of content like this, or unless you do have a mechanism that allows you to build these deep relationships with your audience, it's almost impossible these days to establish deep trust with your audience if you are trying to sell any products or you're trying to build a movement. No matter what your entrepreneurial endeavor is, unless you're doing this, it's becoming very hard. And if you're making asks to your audience or you're doing any type of direct response marketing, if you're not targeting a warm audience who already knows who you are fundamentally, it's extremely hard to get people to buy because the market is changing so drastically. The internet itself is actually changing drastically, but that's a different video for a different time. If you want to learn what I mean by that, click the link below to watch my other channel. So that's number one. Everything is changing a lot, and I think one of the fundamental pressures is artificial intelligence. It's very easy now. Like, I promise you, you have seen AI avatars online that you didn't know were an AI avatar. I guarantee that's already happened to you, and you just don't know it because it's impossible to know, because it's passing the video Turing test, per se. These things are already happening, and it's only going to continue to accelerate. In a not too distant future, pretty much anybody is going to be able to put out thousands of short form content videos per day, and they're going to look indistinguishable from real humans. You will not be able to tell. I don't care who you are. That's probably going to be here roughly next year. If you look at how Google is building their Genie 3 models or their Veo 3 models, and how all of these video models are becoming extremely good, and the voice models are becoming extremely good, it's not a long period of time until pretty much anybody can start to rip thousands of short form content or short form pieces of content per day that are indistinguishable from real humans. Obviously, that does a lot to the marketing space online, which is why I'm making this type of content where I'm just riffing, right? It's not really super planned. Like, I have a few show notes in front of me, so I have like a directionally correct concept to go along. But you have to have stuff like this where I'm just kind of riffing and I'm talking. You guys get to see the issues that to make sure I'm not an AI or whatever, right? But no, genuinely, AI is the fundamental pressure that is causing these business changes. I'm pretty aware of like the info product space. It used to be the growth operator space, but it's kind of pivoting to more of like an info product or AI infrastructure implementation. There's like so many different offers right now that you see these gurus pushing online, whether you're watching them on YouTube channels or you're watching them in other places. There's a lot of different like AI infrastructure offers or AI operating offers or doing all of these different things, right? And it's funny because the same exact people that are offering these coaching programs or mentorship programs or whatever they are the same exact people who said, here's this marketing tactic coaching program 6 months ago or 12 months ago or not less than that even. They either go from like, I'm a copywriting coach, I'm an advertising coach, I'm a growth operator coach. Now everybody is an AI operator. Everybody is an AI infrastructure build outer. Everybody is just copying the next trend. They're not finding any real roots. They're not building a real business model. They're just hopping from trend to trend to trend, which isn't the worst thing to do. But obviously, there's like some consequences to that, which aren't going to help you in the long term. But really, what I want, the reason I'm mentioning that at all is, again, to reference the pressure of AI that is being pushed onto everything. It's changing the products that people are offering. It's changing the way that you're marketing. It's changing the entire business model that you were once pursuing. Every single thing about business is changing due to this one simple fundamental pressure of artificial intelligence. And in the limit, all businesses become AI businesses. In the limit, all businesses become AI businesses. So let's ask ourselves, what are the two types of service-based businesses online? There are software as a service businesses, and there are labor as a service businesses. So real service businesses where you're offering labor, whether you have a marketing agency or a development agency or a design agency, any type of agency service or freelancing service is a service-based business where you're selling human labor as a service. And then the software service side, software as a service, or you're doing, maybe you have an operating system like Microsoft, or you just have a normal software as a service, software as a service where you're doing vertical SaaS, or maybe you have an entire platform. Maybe you have like an Instagram, or maybe you have a WAP or a school or Discord or something like that. That's the other type of service, right? So labor as a service, software as a service. Those are the two types of services online. Now, what is happening today? These are converging. Very soon, the only type of online service will be agentic AI software as a service. Why? Because software with artificial intelligence is eating the service-based industry. It's consuming it. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the day, early Silicon Valley, the saying was software will eat the world. Well, it's fucking happening because now we have intelligent software. Artificial intelligence is intelligent software, and it's literally eating the service industry. It's eating jobs, it's eating the service industry, and in the limit, software as a service will replace the human labor as a service. Why? Because instead of going to a marketing agency, I'm just going to go to Meta, and they're going to give me the leads for whatever money I give them. I don't need to hire a human because the AI optimization algorithm optimizes the ad creative, optimizes the copy, optimizes the landing page, optimizes literally everything. And then next thing you know, the next step of that funnel is you get like a ClickFunnels with AI integration, where it optimizes the lead nurturing process, it optimizes the appointment setting process, and through reinforcement learning with these artificial intelligent algorithms, all of these things become optimized. Now, some people will hear this and they might be a little bit skeptical. If you look at the current models and the trajectory of them, I'll put a little graph on the screen here. With reinforcement learning, these things are getting absolutely incredible at real world tasks. Now, again, the big trend here is the convergence of service and software. They're becoming the same thing. Software is now eating the world, Now, what does that mean? Well, there is likely to only be a few big category kings. If you understand how business works, I recommend to read the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. What's going to happen here is the service-based businesses will be eaten by software, and there will be a category king, or maybe like the top 3 companies per category, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's a different category like design or fulfillment. There's going to be a few different category kings within the AI software ecosystem. And the service-based businesses will die like newspapers, and the other competing software as a service, the other competing agentic AI software as a service companies that are also in the same category as these category kings will die. Similar to how Walmart beat out all of the other cheap grocery stores, or whatever you called them. What I read the Made in America by Sam Walton. What do they call them? I forget the exact name that they called them in the book. Anyways, that doesn't matter. You get the point. Now, the interesting thing is vibe coding is making it extremely easy to build these types of software platforms. You, I, anybody, as long as you're not retarded, and as long as you can put like more than 5 minutes into something at a time, you can pretty much build agentic software. It's not that hard anymore, actually. You just have to have a basic intuitive understanding of what you want to do. Very simple. You don't have to understand exactly what you're doing. You just need a basic concept, and that's all you need. You know why? Because you can talk to the AI, hash out the concept, see what it recommends, because it's smarter than me, it's smarter than you, it's smarter than 99% of people that are going to be working on this project. And you hash out the design, you hash out the concept, you hash out what you need to use to make this actually work. It tells you literally everything A to Z that you could possibly need to deploy this at scale, and you start to just build it. And as long as you have somewhat of a pain tolerance and you're not 100% retarded, you can build it. Like, that's the area that we're in today, which is absolutely insane. And it's getting to the point where it's going to do more and more and more and more, and take more and more and more off your plate, which is pretty amazing. So what does that mean? Well, since the service industry is dying and software is eating the world, it's not enough just to be the service business guy. It's not enough just to be the marketer. And it's also not enough just to be the vibe coder. Because as we mentioned, these companies, the category kings of marketing, the category king of sales, the category king of product design, these agentic software platforms are going to kill the rest of the platforms below them. There's only going to be like 3 people in any single category that are the kings of that category, and then all of the other competitors get crushed. Welcome to capitalism, right? Which capitalism is amazing. How do you solve this? What is the solution for this? How do you make sure you don't get crushed? Build a YouTube brand is what I'm doing. We already mentioned how AI is changing marketing. Direct response marketing doesn't really work anymore. If you're making content, you have to have something like this. If you're doing cold outreach, you have to be a little bit more creative than you were before. And it only becomes more like that ounce of creativity that you put in there has to be dialed up only more when it becomes easier for more people to play the game, which is that's all the AI does. It's not that AI changes the game fundamentally. While it does in some way, it kills certain businesses. Certain businesses will die. It also just makes it so you have to absolutely like amp up everything else to the max in order to survive, because the competition is going to be so high, because people can just do things now. That's what AI does. It lowers the barrier to entry for most industries, and now anybody can build software, as we just described. So how do you combat that? Well, you need to have a form of a marketing channel like YouTube, which is why I'm building a YouTube channel, while you also have the vibe coding skills. I think the future belongs to the people who have a social presence with a long form content type of medium like YouTube. and understand how to vibe code things. If you have like a niche that you really enjoy, find the thing that you enjoy. Like I'm going to give you the simplest but most effective guide to the future of business, which sounds like the dumbest thing ever. The future of business. Anyways, figure out what you enjoy, learn about yourself, tackle that niche, whether you like football, whether you like going to the gym, whether you like baking, or maybe you like marketing, maybe you like software and building software, maybe you like 3D printing. It doesn't matter. Find the category, find a niche, start posting content within that niche. Because now what you're doing, whenever you post content, you're building the audience. Once you have that pool of users, that audience, you can start to figure out what problems they are having. Whenever you post content about the niche, you will get people who are in that niche. Start having conversations with those people. Figure out the problems that they have. And then start to solve those problems with vibe coding skills by building agentic software, as we just described. Or maybe you just build an online community. That's also an extremely viable product to have right now. Just literally a collection of individuals who are all in that niche. If you can build a collection of individuals in that niche and then direct them to a platform and then they chat with each other, that's an invaluable product because they're now getting alpha that they might not even get through AI. AI has to be trained on the data. If they're not trained on the data that these guys are talking about from doing the skill in the trade, the AI is not going to have that data immediately until it is trained on it, which it will be eventually. And it's a valuable place. The community business model is extremely valuable right now. So that's one. That plus having software products to solve those problems is all you need. That is all you need. If you use vibe coding, you build a YouTube channel, and you host a community, I guarantee you do that over a few years, like definitely hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business, potentially millions worth of business, potentially tens of millions worth of business. And the funny thing is, like, this is a very early opportunity vehicle. I think this is the logical conclusion. As we mentioned in the beginning of the video, I'm kind of talking about where is everything going. I think we can put a dot in the ground and say the entire industry is going to this. And to me, it looks like all of the use cases online are going to be eaten besides long form content and live streaming, because again, trust is very low online. And how can you build trust? Long form content and live streaming, agentic software, and having a fucking community. If you can get a community of people in your niche congregating in an area, you have conversations with them, figure out what are their problems that they are having, and then you build agentic software to solve those specific problems. That is the entire thing. You cannot do anything else. Like, that is the final form of the online business model. There is no other thing. This is where it's all going over a long enough time horizon. Sure, today you can still sell your AI automations. We're not quite there yet, but you can easily play a very simple logic pattern throughout your brain and make a very easy extrapolation and conclusion that is where we're going. You don't have to be that smart to do it. It's a very obvious extrapolation and a very logical conclusion to draw, and you almost have to be a little dumb to think anything else, in my opinion. Hopefully that didn't offend anybody. So what does that mean? Well, the thing about business is if you want to build anything great at all, it's going to take a long time. Any reasonable business takes at least 7 years to build. Now, I know there's going to be so many gurus on the internet who say, dude, you can get rich in 36 months. You can get rich in 10 months, which technically you can get relatively rich like in 6 months. I've done it. But if you want to build anything that's meaningful, if you want to build anything that lasts a long time, if you want to build a real sustainable long-term business, you have to play the long game. You have to build for 7 years straight. And many people will say, oh, you can't build for 7 years straight right now. Nobody knows what's going to be like in 7 years. The world's changing so fast. I'll tell you right now, one thing that'll never go away is a community where people congregate. If you have a place where people who have a common interest are congregating, that will never be replaced. Why? Because unless you delete humans off of Earth, they're always going to want to congregate. This is just fundamental nature of the psychology of the species Homo sapien. Homo sapiens like to congregate. Why do we form religions? Because we like to congregate around a specific belief or ideology. Why do we form companies? Because we like to congregate in pursuit of a mission. Congregation of humans will never go away. Build a community, solve problems for that community. That's the next step, which is why I talk about agentic software and vibe coding. Because if you look at it, there's infinite amount of demand for automation in the universe. There's an infinite amount of problems in the universe. It would be great to have more of those automated than not automated. How do you automate those? With programming, with software, with vibe coding. Since there's infinite amount of problems in the universe, there is an infinite demand for automation, meaning there's an infinite demand for vibe coding. Which means if you have a community and you are vibe coding and you are posting long form content, you have it's like an impenetrable business model for the next 7 years for sure. So just start doing this today and don't stop. And I guarantee, while other people's AI agencies are dying because they're getting replaced, while other people's marketing agencies are dying because they're getting replaced, while other people's AI operator whatever are dying because they're getting replaced, and they're jumping from trend to trend to trend and only making short-term cash while you're building something that's an actual business, you're going to be laughing while the momentum takes you forward because you decided to choose what is the last standing online business model and start today. That is the question. Like if you look at Palmer Luckey right now, he is running Anduril. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. Before he started Anduril, he had Oculus, and he sold it to Meta for billions of dollars. Palmer Luckey was a kid that started Oculus, and the reason he started it, he asked himself, what is the final form of the interface? And whatever that is, I'm going to start today because I know I'm going to win. If I start the final form of the thing that I am pursuing today, I win no matter what. Because one, competition is short-sighted, meaning you will not have any competition because competition is for fucking losers. So I'm going to start that today and continue to do it. What is the final version of the display interface? It is virtual reality. It is the fucking Oculus. He started that today. He committed to it. He had zero competition because competition is short-sighted and it's for losers. And he fucking won, and he sold it for billions of dollars to Meta. While everybody else was jumping from trend to trend to trend, being short-sighted and cutting each other's throats because that's the only game they'll know how to play is the competitive one. They don't know how to extrapolate. They don't know how to play the long-term game. They're so stuck on instant gratification, scrolling on social media, gooning, doing all this bullshit whenever they could have been building something worthwhile. That is the game. That is the future we are heading towards. And now that AI accelerates faster and faster and the world changes on a monthly basis, it's becoming so much more important to identify the long game so that you can start playing today instead of switching trend for every single month and never ever actually having traction. This is the game now. The world is changing. You're not going to pivot monthly and make it anywhere great. Find the logical conclusion, start building it today, and it will carry you to where you fucking need to go. And that is it. End of story. That being said, if you found this video insightful, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.